Hi, I'm Ryan Willis.
Hi, I'm Arnav Chittapade, and we're glad you're able to join us today for our session on securing your hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge infrastructure through Azure Arc powered with some of your favorite Azure services, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Microsoft Sentinel, and Azure Policy. Let's get after it.
To help set the stage, I first want to talk about Azure Arc. Azure Arc is a fundamental part of Azure's strategy to help you manage all of your resources from anywhere in the world consistently, the same way you would manage servers, Kubernetes clusters, SQL servers that you have running in the Azure cloud. And so Azure Arc's first and foremost purpose is to connect those resources that are running in another cloud or on-premises to the Azure cloud so that we become aware of it and can go and manage it and make changes to those resources and help you more efficiently secure and govern those resources from a single location. And so that's about the Arc-enabled infrastructure here. And I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into the kinds of infrastructure that we can manage with Azure Arc. So first up is servers. These could be your Windows and Linux servers. They could be physical, virtual, doesn't really matter. As long as those servers can communicate with Azure, then we can Arc-enable that server. And we can even Arc-enable the virtualization infrastructure underneath for VMware and Azure Stack HCI environments. And then it lights up scenarios to allow you to provision and manage VMs from Azure, but actually have them show up and appear using your on-premises resources. We also have Arc-enabled SQL Server. So if you have SQL instances running on your Windows servers, we can Arc-enable those too, so that you can see each of those individual instances in the Azure portal, and then you can go and apply security best practices and understand the current state of those SQL servers all in one place. Lastly, we have Arc-enabled Kubernetes, and this is all about managing any Kubernetes cluster you have running outside of Azure. Once you connect that cluster into Azure, you can go and see those containers running on it, and you'll be able to apply Microsoft security and governance tools to those Kubernetes clusters. Let's go one layer deeper and take a further look at what these services offer. So Arc-enabled servers, this is a capability that is available to go and connect your Windows and Linux servers to Azure. And when you do so, we will be able to see that these servers are on premises, and we will be able to go and make changes to those servers, like installing security tools and monitoring tools. We can use Azure Policy to go on those machines and understand the current security configuration of your operating system and the software running on it, and even make changes to it if it's not compliant with our best practices or your own company's best practices. We also bring along an Azure Active Directory Managed Identity, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about a scenario involving Azure Key Vault, but this is really important for Arc. We want to make sure that when you connect to Azure from one of these machines, we're doing so in the most secure way possible, and we do so in a way that's agnostic to whether your server is Windows or Linux, domain joined or not. For those machines that have SQL servers installed as well, I mentioned you can go and Arc-enable those instances. When you do so, you get the ability to see the security and general configuration of those SQL servers from Azure. And in doing so, you can generate a report with prioritized recommendations on how to improve the performance, reliability, and security of those SQL instances. And then for your Kubernetes clusters you have on premises, we can also connect those into Azure Arc. In doing so, we have very similar capabilities to Arc-enabled servers. We have an extension platform where we can go and help you effortlessly push down Azure agents to go do monitoring and security on your behalf and get those logs that can help you understand what's happening in your environment ingested into Azure Sentinel and other services to help you understand what's happening on those Kubernetes clusters. We also have additional capabilities like a policy engine. So you can integrate Azure Policy with your Kubernetes clusters on-prem to enforce configuration of certain components of that Kubernetes cluster so that you know that your clusters are conforming to your company's IT policy. There's also capabilities like Azure Active Directory Identity, again, to communicate between the cluster and Azure, and Open Service Mesh, which can be used to help secure and lock down the network communication between different pods running in your Kubernetes cluster. And all of this is important because when we connect those resources, no matter what kind they are, into the Azure platform, it lights up a ton of common experiences. Everything we do in Azure is built through our control plane. So when you interact with us through the Azure portal, the command line, Azure Policy, ARM templates, you name it, those are all talking to our control plane known as Azure Resource Manager. With Azure Arc, all these things you have running outside of Azure now show up there. And so that means that we can use all those great automations and templating tools to go and manage those resources outside of Azure. This is really important as well because it means other Azure services can be aware of and provide extra services to these machines that are running on premises. One great example of this is Azure Key Vault. So anyone dealing with application secrets knows the importance of making sure that they're regularly rotated and stored securely. With Azure Arc, because we have an extension manager that can go and push down agents to your servers and then securely connect them back to Azure with unique identities for every server or Kubernetes cluster, we can provide you a way to synchronize certificates to your Windows and Linux servers and offer secrets to your Kubernetes clusters so that you don't have to bake any of those into your applications and can very easily control and regularly rotate those certificates and the secrets right in Azure through Key Vault. It's very simple to set up, and it provides a ton of security value to the application developers who are working on these on-premises and multi-cloud servers.
With Microsoft Defender for Cloud, customers are able to assess, secure, and defend hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge workloads. Defender for Cloud offers both the ability to strengthen your cloud security posture through its cloud security posture management capabilities and the ability to protect your multi-cloud and hybrid workloads through its cloud workload protection capabilities. Defender for Cloud strengthens your cloud security posture with high-level visibility through its secure score and built-in policies, compliance, and automation capabilities. In terms of cloud workload protection, leveraging Azure Arc, this extends across not just Azure resources, but non-Azure resources, servers, cloud-native workloads, databases and storage, Azure service layers, and IoT devices. Defender for Cloud, through its combination of cloud workload protection and cloud security posture management, affords customers streamlined security management. We see Azure Arc fitting in across each of the core values of Defender for Cloud, across continuous assessment, security, and defense. In terms of continuous assessment, Defender for Cloud allows you to understand your current security posture, identifying and tracking vulnerabilities. Through a secure score, you get a bird's eye view of the security posture of your entire environment. Through Arc, that captures not just your Azure environment, but your multi-cloud environment as well in AWS or GCP, and your on-prem environment that's been Arc-enabled as well. Defender for Cloud also offers powerful security capabilities, hardening connected resources and services by providing customized and prioritized recommendations based on the Azure Security Benchmark. Now, these prioritized and customized recommendations extend to your non-Azure resources as well that have been Arc-enabled. Finally, there's the Defend value prop, with the Defender for Cloud allowing to detect and resolve threats to those resources and services with prioritized security alerts that focus on what matters and surfacing that to the right audience. Through Azure Arc, this extends to your non-Azure resources, where you get the same level of comprehensive alerting and point-and-click remediation built into Defender for Cloud to quickly respond to threats that have been surfaced. In addition to Microsoft Defender for Cloud, there's Microsoft Sentinel, the intelligent, scalable, and cloud-native integrated SIEM and SOAR solution. That's security information event management and security orchestration automation response. And pun intended, it'll seem like your SOC analysts seem to soar with Microsoft Sentinel. Now, Sentinel offers an end-to-end solution, starting off with the collection of data using built-in data normalization capabilities and hundreds of third-party data connectors you can select from. It then offers a robust suite of monitoring and detection capabilities, providing with visibility through workbooks, watch lists, user entity profiles, intelligence through built-in enrichment capabilities, analytics through analytics rule, machine learning powered detection and behavioral analytics, and hunting with dozens of built-in hunting queries that extend across on-premise and multi-cloud workloads as well. Then there's the investigation capability, where you're able to easily manage and track different incidents, and actually the response capability as well, where you're able to quickly investigate and run remediation playbooks and automation to respond effectively to different threats. This is all supported not just by Microsoft native, but community of ecosystem of supporting applications, supporting tools that extends beyond Azure through Arc. We see Arc fitting into each of the core values of Microsoft Sentinel. This extends from collecting data at cloud scale across all users, devices, apps, and infrastructures. And this is not just Azure, this is on-premise, this is multi-cloud as well. Based off of that robust data foundation, you're able to detect previously uncovered threats and minimize false positives using the analytics and threat intelligence from Microsoft. And this is built on decades of cybersecurity research, enabling you to really reduce alert fatigue. You're then able to investigate threats with AI and hunt suspicious activities at scale, tapping into Microsoft's robust cybersecurity research. Finally, you're able to respond quickly to incidents using built-in orchestration and automation of common tasks. Through Azure Arc, Microsoft Sentinel's SIEM and SOAR capabilities extend beyond just your Azure environment across your on-premise, your multi-cloud, your edge compute as well. And bringing together that entire visibility into the integrated SIEM and SOAR offering allows you to have really comprehensive threat intelligence. Finally, through Azure Policy, we dive into Azure's native governance capabilities with real-time enforcement, compliance assessment, and remediation at scale. Azure Policy has really rich enforcement and compliance capabilities. You're able to turn on built-in policies, selecting from hundreds of existing policies, not just for Azure native resources, but Arc-enabled servers, Arc-enabled SQL servers, Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters as well. And you also have the ability to actually build your own custom Azure policies with ease of lifecycle management for those policies. With policies, you get real-time policy evaluation and enforcement, or you're able to set on periodic and on-demand compliance evaluation so you can get the visibility you need into your governance. You're able to easily apply policies at scale to a management group with control across your entire organization, or to the specific scopes within your sub-environments or your sub-resource groups. You're also able to apply exclusion scopes as necessary and aggregate multiple policies into policy initiatives, offering an ease of experience in terms of managing and deploying these Azure policies to get your governance up and running. Finally, Azure Policy has powerful built-in remediation and automation capabilities. You're able to remediate existing resources at scale using Azure Policy, using built-in remediation tasks. You're able to automatically remediate directly at deploy time, and you're able to trigger alerts when a resource is out of compliance. Now, this powerful set of capabilities for Azure governance built into Azure's management plane extends beyond your Azure resources through Azure Arc. You're able to readily apply Azure policies, including Azure policies that rely on machine configuration and Azure policies that rely on in-guest Kubernetes capabilities as well. So with this, you have a lot of depth in terms of the governance you're able to tap into. Across the different Azure security and governance services we covered today, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Azure Monitor, the basis for Microsoft Sentinel, as well as Azure Policy, we spoke about how you can really achieve consistent security and governance across your hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge compute, delivering Azure security across your infrastructure anywhere.
Tired of slides? Well, so are we. Let's dive into our demo environment of Northwind Risk. Northwind Risk typifies the demo environment for our hypothetical customer, Northwind Traders, which is recently acquired firm Tailwind Traders across Northwind and Tailwind with part containerized, part virtualized infrastructure on premises, Azure, AWS, GCP, and the edge. There's a tremendous amount of IT sprawl. Right here in the Northwind Risk Resource Group, which corresponds to the unified risk division across Northwind Traders and Tailwind Traders, we see Arc's single pane of glass firsthand. Here you see Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters. These are clusters that are actually sitting, although you wouldn't be able to tell from this view, in GCP and on-prem being projected into Azure's management plane. You see Arc-enabled servers, part on-prem, some in AWS, and Arc-enabled SQL servers as well, and Azure VMs, all from a single inventory view from a resource group perspective. You would be able to apply tagging to organize these resources and leverage Azure Resource Graph to query them in inventory at scale. Additionally, you'd be able to leverage Azure's powerful observability and monitoring to actually dive into the performance and analytics of each of these resources. But let's stay focused on security and look at Microsoft Defender for Cloud in action with the Northwind Risk resource group. Here we see the Defender for Cloud inventory view for our subscription group. We're looking at a number of Azure VMs, but not only them, Arc-enabled servers, Arc-enabled VMware vSphere, Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters, all being projected into this inventory view. We have visibility into where Defender and monitoring has been or hasn't been installed, and we actually have resource-level granularity into their level of health. This is a really powerful view that services right from the get-go not just the resource health of your entire subscription environment that spans Azure, but also non-Azure, multi-cloud, hybrid, and edge resources. And you're able to look at the overall health, but also the health of specific resources. So let's look, for example, at this Arc-enabled server, Tailwind Server 3. And here I've just pulled up the resource health for Tailwind Server 3, this on-prem server belonging to Tailwind traders, part of the risk division that's been projected into Defender for Cloud. And here we're able to see an aggregate of all of these different recommendations we have, prioritized by severity level for the specific resource in order to ensure that it's complying to Azure's best security practices. For example, we see that endpoint protection should be installed on the machine, or that the log analytics agent should be installed on Arc-enabled server. And what we'll actually be able to do is point and click to remediate directly from Azure portal. And so you have the capability to remediate security vulnerabilities being made visible within the Azure portal through Defender for Cloud. That's powerful in terms of the point-and-click remediation you have with Defender for Cloud. But this is just one piece of Defender for Cloud's capabilities. We talk about continuous assessment, and that's being surfaced through the security posture. So right here we have our secure score, and we'd be able to dive into secure scores for AWS, GCP environments as well. But here our Azure environment secure score, and we're able to see an 18% secure score. So this surfaces from a very high level where your overall security posture looks like, and you're able to track against this based off of your organizational needs. Now, depending on the regulatory compliance of your organization, you'd actually be able to dive in and look at a granular level whether or not you're compliant with specific benchmarks. For example, the Azure Security Benchmark, but also SOC, NIST, and a number, dozens of built-in regulatory compliance benchmarks. And you're able to look at the specific compliance controls and even more granularly, look at where there are actual failed resources and do remediation from that perspective as well. Finally, there's the cloud workload protection aspect of Defender for Cloud. And so right here, we're able to see Defender for Cloud's coverage across not just your Azure resources, but your Arc-enabled servers, your Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters, your Arc-enabled SQL servers that are outside of Azure. And you're able to see a high-level overview of the security alerts that are being generated over time as well as the advanced protection with the enhanced security capabilities of Defender for Cloud. Now, we talked a little bit about the remediation capabilities, but another core facet of security and governance in the Azure management plane is policy. And Azure Policy really offers robust governance built into our Azure resources. And so here we see our overall resource compliance across our entire estate, Azure, non-Azure, hybrid, multi-cloud. I keep repeating it because it's so native and so intuitive how all of this is being managed from one pane of glass. And so here we're able to look at the compliance state from resources that might be in Azure, might not be in Azure, and we're able to apply policies as well. So we could go into our assignments, we could draw from hundreds of built-in policies, and these could be deploying extensions, for example, to our Azure VMs and our Arc-enabled servers, cluster extensions to our Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters, but they could also be going into beyond the control plane. We could be using Gatekeeper for Azure Policy to set namespace node control policies, for example, or using guest configuration with Arc-enabled servers to configure the time zone on our specific machines even. And so with our assignments view, we're actually able to assign policies with ease. So we're able to point and click, pick from hundreds of policies. We're able to apply exclusions. We're able to create our definition. And then we're able to create remediation on top of it and even set our own non-compliance messages. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of the application of Azure's governance and a lot of built-in capabilities that are available, in addition to the capability to actually customize your own policy definitions. And finally, there's the overall visibility piece as well, where you have a bird's eye view of compliance across your entire governance infrastructure of really whether or not resources are compliant with the policies that you've set them for. The final piece I want to touch on is Microsoft Sentinel, and that's the integrated SIEM and SOAR offering, the security information event management and security orchestration and automated response. And so here, boy, I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of Northwind traders. We have hundreds of thousands of events and quite a few alerts and incidents being generated, but you have that bird's eye visibility into kind of threat intelligence, into recent incidents, into data source anomalies as well. And the way this works is, from the beginning, you can tap into hundreds of built-in data connectors. And these data connectors aren't specific to Azure. You also have data connectors that are third-party data connectors as well that we could be tapping into. In this specific instance, with the instance we've generated, we focused on some of the more built-in data connectors that are available. And so we're going to be looking at just the connected ones. We're drawing in data specifically from Windows Firewall, from Defender for Cloud, through the MMA and AIM agents. And using that, we've set up our own framework of custom and built-in analytics rules. We're going to be parsing through that data to make sense of it with intelligent incident creation and security events as well. And so we're going to be able to create those custom analytics rules to build the robust data foundation we need. And then we're able to use Azure's observability framework across Kusto, across workbooks, across threat intelligence to really respond and dive into each of those threats. And we even have built-in hunting that is the foundation of decades of Microsoft cybersecurity research. And that extends to hunting for threats and incidents that are Azure specific, but also multi-cloud. So for example, you're able to see queries here that extend to on-prem. And for example, this one right here, changes made to AWS IAM policy. So you're able to get really native integrations with sort of multi-cloud hunting and threat intelligence from Microsoft Sentinel. The final piece I want to touch on is the response piece. And this is the automated response that Sentinel offers. And so you can obviously create automation rules to respond to incidents and alerts based off of built-in logic. But you can actually deploy logic apps to actively respond to threats. And so here, one really neat logic app we have is this Defender extension triggered logic app that's going to be detecting when incidents from Sentinel are created. It's actually going to go through the different alerts that constitute that incident. And then it's going to check whether or not they're Arc-specific and Defender-specific. And depending on that, it's going to automate the deployment of an ARM template that's going to be an Azure policy to configure Defender on our Arc-enabled servers. So there you have a non-Azure resource that's going to trigger an incident being surfaced, being automatically responded to by Azure, and you're going to respond to it using Azure's governance plane through policy and Defender's enhanced security capabilities. And this really typifies the sort of end-to-end coming together of security and governance available through Azure with this sample customer, Northwind Traders. So we can really see how Azure's robust security plane across Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Microsoft Sentinel, and Azure Policy come together to afford a consistent and robust security plane for our customers across their multi-cloud, hybrid, and edge compute.
Thanks for joining us today to learn about how Azure Arc can help you secure and govern your hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge infrastructure. To learn more and get started using these products, take a look at the reference links. Thanks again.